Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Let's Get Ready Network. I'm Adelia. I'm here with Justin and our friends Greg, Brandi, Matt, and French. We just watched over the course of the last 2 nights, because they released 3 episodes on us, the first 3 episodes of season 2 of Rings of Power, and we're here to give some thoughts about it. Brandi showing off her ring,
Rings of
her
Power.
ring of power. Let's go around and just give some thoughts on the 3 episodes. French, why don't we start with you?
Well, I mean, it took them 3 episodes, but we reintroduced all the character sets. You know, we've seen all the groups. We know where they're going this season. We're seeing Sauron fuck with everybody at this point. And now, now the mixing bowl is going to start. Where is the action of this season going to begin? We got a hint of it, but next week is going to be the fun times. Now we know where we're going, and there was a lot of cool stuff in that. You know, especially I love the orcs do not want Sauron to be alive, and if they find his ass, they're going to kill him again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And beyond that, yeah, we were establishing the world again, getting ready for season 2, and let's Leroy Jenkins this.
All right, Matt.
That's
what
a
about you?
short version.
I'm jumping in pretty fresh because I only saw a few episodes of the first season, so I'm getting used to the characters and stuff. But I like it. All the it's shot really well. Fucking the action's pretty cool on it too. Watching that spider crush that dude's head was pretty intense.
No, don't make me relive that.
There was a lot of them too.
There were way too many of them.
It was like, yeah, that one episode in season 2 of Mando, yeah, just like that, only dark and spooky.
Just like that.
Yeah. A little more
I was also thinking of that scene in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Oh yeah,
not my favorite. Brandi, what about you?
I'm like, you have to put the spider image in my head, right?
I know. Why did you have to do that?
I was freaked. Oh my goodness, that made me freak out. I like the episode, but like, even if they kill him, doesn't he always come back? Can he always come back? Yeah.
More or less, yeah. It's what form can he take?
Listen, I don't know a lot of, like, you guys know more about Lord of the Rings. Like, I'm coming in. I've seen them a long time ago. I didn't really watch all of the Lord of the Rings. I think I've seen the first one, and I wasn't really paying attention to all of it. So I don't know.
I'm going to make you watch them now, right?
Oh my goodness. That's going to be a thing. Me and Adelia, Brandi is going to watch along to Lord of the Rings. I know that's
Yep. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Dang it.
Yeah. You need some explanations. You need some context.
Yeah. I don't know everything, so that's why I'm like, oh, cool. But I love the way this is shot. I love the colors in it. It's like, it's really awesome. Dark is very dark, but the bright is very like vibrant bright, and it's really cool. And yeah, I don't know. I remember last season and them coming back, and one of the characters is not there anymore, and I'm like, oh, but you gave that reason to why she wasn't going to be there anymore. I like it. I want to see where it's going to go with all the rings that they want to be building now, and isn't a lot of them that they're going to have?
There are a lot of rings, yes.
Yeah, my guess is that they're going to make all but one of them here this season, and then
a ring for everyone.
At the very end, that last one.
That's basically what it is, Brandi. There was 3 rings for the elves, 7 for the dwarf lords, I believe, and 9 rings for men. And then there's the 1 ring that Sauron makes to control all the other rings on top of it. There's a lot of rings.
Is that what it is? The 1 ring to rule them all? Is that what that is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Frodo's ring, yeah.
I remember something like that.
All right, Greg, what about you?
Yeah, I thought the first 2 episodes really you just got re-immersed in the world and where the characters, and it kind of just like all clicked for me, and I was just like going. I was like, all right, cool. I already know you were growing. You know, I'm liking everything I see. You're just picking up. It's going great. So those were good. Sauron, it kind of reminded me like growing up Christian, reminded me of like the tales of Lucifer, like being this beautiful angel. the most beautiful of all. They kind of like seduce, kind of like deception, and does everything. He kind of moves like that. So I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Then we got to the third episode. I'm like, oh, it kind of like dimmed a little bit for me, but I still enjoyed it. But it kind of like the first two episodes were different. I don't know if it's because I saw them back to back and then saw this one third separately, or if it's just like the new character that went to a whole new storylines and stuff like that. That I was like, oh, okay, guys, I don't know. It just didn't click for me as much as the first two episodes, but everything was good. Everything was great. I really enjoyed this show, so I can't wait to watch the rest of it.
I like the build up that it's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Justin, did you change your picture? I'm sorry.
Yep.
Noticed he did that.
Justin changed his picture for the entire channel because
Free
it's
Willy.
the channel StreamYard. So now that's the channel StreamYard picture.
Me riding a dolphin, son. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You know, I came up in here and I watched these episodes, and look, it's kind of, I'm not the big, huge, I know some things, but I don't know everything about Lord of the Rings. So it's kind of refreshing just to sit back and watch and not have to care about the lore, because I just don't care about it as much as like Star Wars. So it makes it a little different for me. I think overall the show, like, it obviously looks beautiful. The sound, the music and stuff like that's pretty cool. I have no complaints with any of that. I think most of the acting and stuff is okay. Like, there's like one or two that as the characters grow on me, I think like their performances are getting better. And I'm starting to like them more. I don't think anybody's like knocking anything out of the park, but at the same time, I don't think anybody's bad either. I think
I'm sorry, the husband and wife one there, the wife there, she's knocking it out of the park. I'm sorry. I love her.
Durin and Disa, right?
Yeah.
And but like there's a couple of things, but like it's one of those deals where it doesn't bother me like that much. It's just kind of funny for a couple of things. I mean, we had a great discussion last night about, why would Sauron go and turn himself in? Because he really, like, what did he really gain? He kind of even hurt his plan a little bit by doing that, because time is of the essence right now of him getting these rings done, because we know the other elves are going to be journeying to like try to stop them and everything. So they do have to get things done. He even says it in this third episode that like they don't have time for certain things and everything else. And so like his whole journey back to where he gets beaten and stuff and kind of tortured and then gets away is almost like, why did you do that? Like there was almost no point for me for that. They just didn't explain it very well. Like I think they were trying to say like, oh, he gets beat up and then that's one of the reasons why Celebrimbor like kind of accepts him and kind of trusts him. Too is like, well, how is he a bad guy if the orcs are beating him up? But they really didn't do anything in that episode to kind of tell you that's like why he falls for the trick. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't show that. So, but maybe that's what they were trying to do. They just didn't get to do a good job executing it. But and then the whole tripping over the wire, like we all had a good laugh.
Yeah.
That was,
above. That was the weakest trip wire I've ever seen in my entire life. That trips Poppy, if I'm not mistaken, when she comes
Poppy.
in, and she does kind of come out of nowhere, kind of like a plot convenience. But like I said, those things maybe could have been cleaned up to make it even a better show. But it doesn't hurt it enough for me to be like, oh, this show is crap. Unlike one show we watched kind of recently that had some really bad things. I don't think this show has anything like that. And like I said, it looks so good. Like, you can tell there's money spent on this thing. Like, I'm not the greatest person at eyeing and being able to see like bad CGI or anything like that. But like, I think everything in here looks super great, super good. Like it does kind of bring you into the world. And like I said, I have the fresh eyes of knowing a couple of things, but not all. But even the things that I know don't bother me because I'm not as big of a fan, Lord of the Rings wise, as I am with Star Wars. I take Star Wars a little more hardcore because that's my biggest fandom is the Star Wars. So that means more to me. So with this, I'm kind of like going with the flow. Like I'm okay as long as they tell like a coherent story that makes sense. I do feel like most of it makes sense. And also the weakest part, and we didn't get that in this episode. So But in the first 2 episodes, the weakest part of the story to me is the so-called stranger who we all know as Gandalf. Okay, they just can't use the name.
We're all pretty sure.
Yeah, we all know who he is. You know what I'm saying? We know who he is as clear as everybody can see me riding this dolphin in this avatar right here. You know what I'm saying? So
They
like,
can't.
but yeah, like that's to me the weakest part of the story. But overall, man, I liked and as a big Venom fan, I got to see Venom in the first episode.
There was
I-
definitely a
I will say-
Venom-like creature in this.
That was one of the more disturbing moments I had through the first 3 episodes. Y'all had your spider scare in this episode. I got freaked out. Yeah, when the Venom thing crawled into the cart and then Charlie Vickers rolled out of the cart wearing that lady's clothes. That was creepy.
Yeah,
I was freaked out by that.
The spider's the worst one.
But yeah, I think it's a good
Spiders
show
are pretty
overall
bad.
so far.
Yeah.
And I think so
Yeah.
far this season is better than season 1.
I love Nori and Poppy. I need to know where they got thrown off to.
yeah.
Dia, you're not getting out of this dish.
Oh no, I'm gonna give my thoughts. I was just making sure Justin was done.
But yeah, like I said,
I-
oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Go ahead. But yeah, that was my
No, go
final thing.
ahead.
Is like I
Go
thought it
ahead.
was good. I think it's good. I think it's better than season 1. Like I'm enjoying this season better than I did season 1. One last thing, and I'll be done. We also had a pretty good discussion on the fact of like the elves kind of like being like Jedi in Star Wars, where most of those characters are going to be like wooden as far as like, you know, they're not going to be quirky or anything, or even funny in most cases. They're always going to be like stoic and kind of like there. So it is hard to have a show that's like that's following the elves storyline because you don't have those characters. Now, when we leave the elves, right, like especially that's what I think season 2 is doing better, is that we're going to other places where it's not necessarily just, you know, mass covered by elves and like elves being the main story plot kind of thing, which I think does make it a little better just as personalities and stuff goes. Because it's tough because these actors are playing elves like they're supposed to, which can be sort of, like I said, wooden, kind of like boring to a certain point, because of how they're supposed to be. But they're supposed to be like that. Like that's how elves are. So it is kind of hard to do a show like that. But I do think the pacing and stuff in this season's better. So like I said last night, pretend like you watched a whole show that was Yoda doing an adventure and there was nobody for him to play off of. It was just Yoda. It'd be kind of boring.
Uh-oh.
Oh, did Adelia freeze?
Yeah, she froze.
She
Looking at
froze
great,
for a second.
great picture though.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, we got to keep going. Anybody else go here?
French
I
knows
was-
more.
I was
Go ahead,
like-
French.
I kept, that's why I kept talking there at the end and brought up the Yoda thing we talked about, is because like Adelia was just kind of staring off into space. I was like, oh, damn. She's either really intrigued and she's not even blinking.
Yeah, I noticed that just in time
My-
for the
my
screen to go black.
my goddamn internet hates me every time. Thank you for doing that, Justin.
No, you're good.
I've absolutely loved the first 3 episodes. I mean, this is stuff is my jam. This is my favorite property. It's my favorite books. It's my favorite movie trilogy. Like I never got obsessed with anything the way I got obsessed with Lord of the Rings when I was a teenager, and that sort of carried on throughout my life. I watched the extended edition of the trilogy back to back at least once a month. So, like, this is my jam. The 20-minute cold open on Sauron in episode 1 was incredible. It was also gross with the venom creature becoming Charlie Vickers.
Mhm.
I did not like that. That's my second least favorite moment of the first 3 episodes. The first being, of course, the spiders. We'll get to that. I think that it's really good that they took their time revisiting each part of the story, but that they set up the Sauron and Celebrimbor stuff first, because I think that's obviously the main through line of the story, and then the other things like what's going on in Numenor or what's going on in the Southlands are just kind of like side plots. I do think maybe there might be too many stories going on, too many characters whose names you have to remember, but you kind of don't if you weren't obsessed with the first season. Like I don't know where they're gonna go with Isildur and this girl he just met in the woods there, but it seems to me like it might be something that I'm not going to be as interested in at the moment as some of the other stuff going on. I do think it's good that they have taken a break in episode 3 from telling us the story with the stranger and Nori and Poppy, and with Galadriel and Elrond, because you don't see them at all in episode 3.
No.
And the first 2 episodes especially are pretty heavy on Galadriel and Elrond and what they're doing. So I think it was good that they took a break from that. I'm real interested as to why they're still calling the one character the stranger that we all think is Gandalf, and this other new dark wizard that we saw is just being referred to as the Dark Wizard. If they're not people we already know from the books, why not use names for them?
Yeah.
I think you're right, Deals. If they were somebody we didn't know, there would be a name to go with them by now.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that what we've got is probably the stranger is Gandalf, and my guess is the Dark Wizard is Saruman.
Mhm.
Because
Those are both good guesses. My only other thought on that is that maybe these are the 2 blue wizards.
but they're never named. So if
They're
they're
never
the blue
named,
wizards, you should name
Yeah.
them.
I totally get what you're saying, and I think that one homie's definitely Gandalf. But I think
Yeah.
the only other possibility they could be going for is those 2 blue wizards who were never named, and they're probably never going to get names. They're not going to break that weird
Yeah.
Tolkien rule.
Unless Christopher Tolkien has some sort of input and he's like, yeah, you can name the blue wizards this, and that will be revealed later, and they're the blue wizards. Okay. But I think they're pretty much Gandalf, and I think the Dark Wizard has to be Saruman because it's not Radagast. And that's the
No,
only
no
other
way.
wizard
Neither
whose
one of these
name we
guys
know.
is Radagast.
Yeah.
I do want to point out one thing. The thing that happens with Sauron in that first beginning thing, I actually learned something because the show is getting me interested in some of the story and stuff behind the thing.
Mhm.
Like, and they do kind of try to predict that time passed because they did like a little, like basically a wipe to black and then comes back into that same area. But they don't really do a good job. They probably should have put a thing on the bottom of the screen, you know, like so many years later or something. I learned that actually occurs possibly, and it's like a 500-year gap in time.
Yeah.
And like most people, like I'm pretty sure, because I didn't get that from like seeing what they portrayed. So I thought they could have did a better job of that because I didn't realize that until like here recently, like today.
We've kind of, the first season we got a taste of it, and this season I think we're going to really hammer into that. There's going to be a ton of time compression from what was in the books. In the books, everything took hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years. It's not going to be like that in this. We don't have
Oh,
time
yeah.
like that on
But
screen.
for that thing in particular, I thought it would have been cool if they had just put like a little thing caption at the bottom that said like 500 years later, and then he starts.
It might be nice, but I think it's one of those they're just going to kind of hand wave it and call it good.
And does everybody agree with me that like the stranger and their stories kind of like the weakest one like in the series so far, or do y'all think something else is weaker?
I think it's either the stranger, just because they're not really doing anything but wandering around, and that's basically been the whole storyline of the stranger so far, is just them wandering around with the Harfoots last season, and now they're wandering around in the deserts of Rune. I also am like completely uninterested in this Muriel and Farazan stuff. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I think Muriel is an interesting character. I want to know what happens with Elendil, but like, why is the daughter of Elendil, Arion or whatever her name is, like helping to start a riot basically at the coronation? And this whole thing with Farazan, I don't like Farazan at all. Like, at all. I think he's acting really well as being the creepy like guy that is trying to usurp a queen, but I
Is that
don't know,
the one at the end with the bird?
with the eagle. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I've seen too many like fantasy shows where there's this whole like intrigue in the royal court storyline, and I just am not interested in it. Like, I don't think it's being done that well.
Well,
Like you add in. Go ahead, friend.
Go ahead, Deals. Oh, I was supposed to say in this episode, I thought they did a great tease of the whole bit with the colors of the royal gown thing, the coronation
Yeah.
gown, and it made again. It was very sensual. There was very much a like this is a creepy dude about to do creepy dude things, and then it backed off. And I think they teased because again in the books there was a very pharaonic sort of ancient Egypt sort of Mary the Queen and they didn't do that. And huzzah for that. I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah.
But they teased
Yeah,
it
I'm
real
glad they
quick and
didn't
got
do
you
that.
thinking that, oh, is this going to get gross like that? And no, he has a totally different plan to take over.
Yeah, I didn't take it like that. I just thought he was being like, this guy that's like trying to like, because at that moment, I don't think he had the game plan ultimately of trying to like supersede her. But I do think he was trying to like maybe like, not really even manipulate, but kind of like get her to like change some things or whatever at that point.
I think
like,
Farazan's been planning. He's been trying to figure out how to take over since season 1.
Right, but
Yeah.
I don't think he was doing that
Before
like,
season 1.
I don't think he was doing that in the creepy kind of way of like sensual stuff or anything. I think he's just being
No,
creepy because he
I
kind of
think
wants to take over.
yeah, I think French is right. They definitely, I mean, that's definitely kind of the way it is in the books. And they definitely like teased it, but I don't think I'm just not interested in this at all. Like I don't feel much of a connection to any of those characters that stayed behind in Numenor while Muriel and Elendil and the soldiers went and fought in the Southlands last season. Like them I like. Muriel and Elendil and the soldiers that were in the Southlands and that one soldier that sort of like stood up to
I was about
Farazan's
to
dickhead
say
son
that,
and all of that.
scene with
Them I
Valandil
like.
was great.
Yeah.
And
them
yeah, I
I like.
think the stranger in Nori as well as Numenor, I want them to get to the point. Just hurry up and get to the point. I'm tired of y'all just keep walking and talking and walking and talking. Let's get to where you're going and have the adventure. Again, yeah, sometimes the journey is worth it, but I really need some destination here.
Yeah, that's sort of my criticism of this is that some of these storylines have started out just as slowly as they started out last season, and they need to like pick up the pace on those. I realize that we have like one episode of the Numenor stuff, so I'm gonna give it some, another episode. But like the Stranger and Nori and Poppy, like get the Stranger to that Dark Wizard already, so we can get whatever is going to happen happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that and everything. I do just to let people know, we did watch the first 2 episodes, and then we had a day gap in between watching episode 3. And I am so glad in this episode I didn't hear anything about a tide. Okay. I'm a big Auburn fan. Everybody around here in Alabama talks about Roll Tide. And then that one, it was episode 2. It was like 3 different people that talked about the tides are changing. I was like, all right, cool. Let's get away from the tides. I just thought that was kind of funny, but yeah.
Yeah. Also the spider scene was gross, but it does make me wonder how many other spiders like Shelob from the Lord of the Rings trilogy actually exist in Middle Earth. We know they were all over Mirkwood, but like how many of them actually are there?
I like the spider scene. I thought it was
that's
pretty
a question.
Cool.
I'm sure you did.
One of the bits I remember is that effectively all of those spiders were ultimately either spawn of Ungoliant, who is Shelob's ancestor, or Shelob herself.
Yeah.
All those spiders came from that. Either maybe not the hatching we watched. Maybe y'all didn't watch it because your eyes were closed. But
my eyes were definitely closed.
it's either from that or they're ultimately descended from that. And yeah, all those big spiders of Middle Earth were descended from Shelob and Ungoliant, because that was just how, I mean, again, that was how Tolkien wrote. Everybody was related to everybody.
Yeah, and that's definitely a Tolkien thing.
I'll say something from this last episode too that almost took me out of it, but I was smart and intelligent enough to like, as I'm starting to like get taken out, I got brought back in because like I did realize the world and like the setting, but like that horse going to find his like master, his rider or whatever.
Oh yeah,
There for a second, I was like, "Come on, man! Like this horse,
I was about to get to that.
yeah, this horse ain't gonna be able to do all this shit and everything else." But then, like, I did like start thinking about the fact that this is Lord of the Rings, so like you have the magical creatures, like the eagles and stuff like that. So like, I'm like, oh wait, I had to remind myself I'm in the Lord of the Rings world for a second and be like, okay, so like a horse could probably do something like that in Lord of the Rings. So it got better when I thought about that. But there for a minute, I was like, oh, well, come on, man. How the hell is this horse doing all that?
I
But
have
like
a
I said, it makes sense. Lord of the
suspicion
Rings.
on that. Gandalf's horse in Lord of the Rings trilogy is Shadowfax, who is like the lord of all the horses. He's one of the Maris, who is like this long-lived race of horses, the greatest horses of Middle Earth. I'm wondering if Beric is one of the Maris. Because
Right.
he was very intelligent, listened to Isildur, basically went back to that place because he knew Isildur was still alive, and just took out some orcs like a badass. Like,
Yeah, escaped
that's
and
more than
everything.
just your normal horse.
Yeah, he went
Exactly.
really straight
At
on
first,
screen.
I'm thinking like a horse can't do this. You know what I'm saying? This is some BS at first, and then, but like I said, I reminded myself we're in Lord of the Rings, so like creatures and stuff can do a little more than what you expect, and everything else. There's a little bit of magic involved in Lord of the Rings and a lot of things, and all that. So like once I brought it back and thought about that, I was definitely like, okay, it's not that bad because this can happen in Middle Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember like all the shows like Zorro. You have Zorro that has a horse. There's always like animals like dogs or stuff in different like kids movies that can like all of a sudden start doing all this funny stuff. So I was just like, okay, the horse can do it, whatever.
Yeah, I do think Beric's may be one of the Maris. That could be interesting to explore at some point in this series. Also, Durin and Disa are the best. They're just the best. I love them so much. I'm enjoying the stuff with the dwarves. I like how Durin is like telling his father, "We've got this possible solution to save our people, but I don't trust it. Something is wrong with this situation." And his father goes ahead with it anyways, as we saw there at the end. And I really liked how they had Anatar, the good version of Sauron, as we've got at the moment, take the mithril from Celebrimbor and be the one to put it in with the rest of the material to make the rings, because that's how he controls these rings.
I gotta rewatch it. It could just be the lighting and the way it was held in his hand, but it almost seemed like that piece of mithril was darker than it was. I mean, after he passed it from hand to hand and then dropped it, it looked a little darker than it was when it got handed over. Could have just been my brain making it look darker, or maybe it was darker on purpose because Sauron. We all know that Sauron is fucking with these rings.
Yeah, my thing too is, and I'm not saying this is not like a negative or a bad thing, but like to me, it's an interesting route to go because if you think about it, right? So Galadriel, and then I cannot remember. Y'all know her name, but the I guess it would be the wife of the Prince of the Dwarves.
Disa.
Nisa. Okay, so like
Disa.
Disa. Okay, so like Disa and Galadriel are supposed to be like, pretty good people and stuff, like obviously doing the good, but they're also the two that is kind of the driving force of what's going to be like the ultimate kind of evil, because she's wanting the ring and talks him into it and everything to go even talk to his father to be able to like wake up the mountain again and everything else, like just kind of ignoring the fact that this could be a bad thing. And so Galadriel's doing the same thing when it comes to like the elves, and her ultimate goal is actually pushing the narrative to do the ultimate bad and everything else. But they're supposed to be like, their characters are like good characters, like they're not doing it for bad reasons. So I think that is like an interesting choice to have two of your main characters that are like kind of like pushing the fact of doing these things that ultimately is going to be bad.
And I get the feel that they're introducing a very Tolkien idea with the like Disa is there's no evil to her actions at all, but she is trying to help the dwarves. And if making a deal with this spooky dude that we don't really know is going to help the dwarves, we got to help the dwarves
Yeah,
because the
it's what
dwarves, and we got to help them. And Tolkien has always been in that Lord of the Rings and any other stuff is that as long as the various pieces all concern themselves with themselves, Sauron and his crew is going to win. We're only going to be able to beat him if we all work together.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at that phase ahead of that where we're not working together yet. We may be doing deals, but we're always doing deals to help ourselves.
a common theme is like when you want to deceive somebody or scam somebody, like even in the real life, people like use fear, right? And so there's fear
Yes.
that the end of the elves are coming. Like this is the end. Like we have to do something. This could be the end of our crops. You know, we can't feed no more in the dwarf community. We're gonna run out of food. Like so, there's
I
some bigger.
need, besides him coming out of the fire, for the engineer elf there, Celebrimbor, like I think I do need the Sauron to actually use manipulation more as a character, because if you look at the first season, technically, like she even admits it, Galadriel does in this season so far, that like he played her and manipulated her. But if you really pay attention to season 1, she was kind of manipulating him to a certain point and using him because like she thought he was going to be the king. So she kept pushing him to do all these things. So it really didn't show like Sauron actually even like manipulating her very much. I mean, she says that in this season, like I said, like in a piece of dialogue that like he played her like a fiddle basically or whatever and used her. But like if you go back and watch season 1, I didn't really feel that way at all. Like she just kind of fell for his trap, but he didn't. But it was almost like her fault. And like when you have say Disa as well, basically kind of doing manipulation because she wants the rings to be made. But Sauron's supposed to be the master manipulator, and I don't feel like we're getting enough of that to showcase it. Like I said, the only thing he's really
Very
done
subtle.
the only thing he's really done is
That's how good
Celebrimbor.
he is.
Yeah, the only thing that like he's like to me really done that like showcases that would be the whole Celebrimbor stuff where he like turns into like this beautiful angel looking thing elf.
Yeah,
and like
Anatar.
and I gotta bring up because I brought it up at the very end. I gotta bring up like why the fancy when they're pouring the mithril or a hot ore or whatever it is, like into the thing, like the little lava flow that's happening to get down into the thing, how it's got to go down this elegant looking thing, which I get it because it's the elves, they're gonna make stuff
It's the
fancy. I
elves.
just thought
Yeah.
that was funny. It's like, bro, we could have just poured it in the thing, dog. Why we gotta let it ride all the way down this like maze to get to the
Yeah,
just
that's like a
a
magic
few more
versus
quick
engineering
thoughts.
thing.
Yeah, just a few more quick thoughts. I think the recast of the actor playing Adar is good. Like I miss the old guy, but I think this new guy is doing really good. I don't like what they did with Bronwyn. I know the actress didn't want to come back. I feel like you could have recast Bronwyn, but I'm willing to give it a chance because I think it could lead to somewhere interesting with Theo and Isildur. That's this like connection they have because they both lost their mothers now. So that I'm willing to give a chance, but I don't like that Bronwyn's gone because I really like Bronwyn. I thought she was a cool character.
Yeah, I liked her too.
Yeah, it's a character that's going to be missed. And now we're left like Arondir just kind of Batmaning his way through the show.
And we got to
Yeah.
see the cool little scene like pre-Legolas.
Well,
Yeah.
that's yeah.
What his nickname could be is like I was gonna say Legolas 2.0, but technically he's before Legolas.
Yeah,
like as far as the timeline goes.
Yeah.
And I think isn't he just like a made up character for the show? Like he's not. Is he
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Like all the Southlanders are made up characters for the show.
Oh, okay. So I guess the Southland had something to do with things ultimately, like in the story, but they just didn't flesh it out with characters and stuff.
They were just like the poor people who happened to be where Sauron set up shop and didn't have a chance until Numenor showed up to save the day. And that's going to be, I think that's going to be part of what this season is going to be. Is Numenor? Well, Numenor is going to get Numenored, and then Isildur and Elendil and the gang are going to come and set up the shop that ends up being in Lord of the Rings.
And I asked you guys something like the game plan for the show overall, like as they go through because I know they got multiple seasons planned. Are we supposed to get to where like in Lord of the Rings, the very opening part of Lord of the Rings, where they're telling you about the rings a little bit and all that kind of stuff in the history. Yeah. Are we going to get to that point in this show? Is that like the game plan is to get to that time?
I feel like that's the game plan because and that big battle where Isildur does not destroy the ring, but Sauron is defeated. That's the end of the Second Age, and I feel like this show is the Second Age show, and then the Third Age is the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Right. So you think this will end basically with that battle, and Sauron ultimately?
That's what I think. Yeah. What I've read is a 5-season plan that will get us up to the battle that we see at the beginning of Lord of the Rings.
Now, you also think, Adelia, you brought this up earlier, the Dark Wizard. You think he's ultimately the precursor for the guy that we see in Lord of the Rings that's at the tower? Saruman. Yeah.
I think he's Saruman. I think it'd be an interesting take to find him to be Saruman, because it would mean that Saruman was never really good, because he's certainly not good.
Yeah, because
Dark Wizard.
Yeah, I thought his character at one point was kind of supposed to be good, or is that like not actually true in the lore?
That's the thing. Like, he's supposed to be good. He's supposed to be Saruman the White, the greatest of all the wizards, until he falls prey and joins with Sauron, and that's before the events of Fellowship of the Ring, but isn't discovered by Gandalf until Fellowship of the Ring. My whole thing is, if you're gonna make him one of the blue wizards, because there's 5 wizards. There's Saruman, there's Gandalf, there's Radagast the Brown, which is that crazy guy in the Hobbit movies that loves the animals and is always riding around on like a sled. And then there's the 2 blue wizards, and there's very little known about the 2 blue wizards. They're never named. They're never actual characters in the books.
The only thing we know is that they were out east.
Yeah,
and that's why it might be them, maybe. Possibly.
Yeah, if you're gonna make these 2 characters the blue wizards, I'm fine with that. I just don't know why we're hiding their names.
Yeah, let's hurry up and do this. Let's get to this. Let's make these blue wizards have blue wizards adventures. Let's not drag this out with,
because I actually can see
walking and talking.
I can actually see a bad thing about the show, like if what you're kind of hinting at could be like, so let's say these are the 2 blue wizards that nobody really knew about. They're using it in the show. And the problem that a little bit the show has is that, like, if I'm not mistaken, instead of having them called the Hobbits, they can't use the name for some reason. I don't think Amazon owns some rights, but they don't own all the rights. So, like,
the Hobbits are like a later, like more settled in the Shire version of the Harfoots. It's like the Harfoots finally stop traveling from place to place to place, and they sort of become the Hobbits in the Shire.
Yeah, I've heard though that like they can't say Gandalf because they don't own the rights to like particular things, so they have to be careful with some of the wordage.
That I have not heard.
Okay,
I can't. I have trouble believing that with Christopher Tolkien being so involved in this.
Yeah, me too.
I think they're doing this just for artistic, fuck with the audience, and especially the Tolkien nerds, people like myself and Adelia. Let us second guess ourselves and question everything based on what we think we know from what we've seen published, and then pull a double whammy and circle back on us and do something surprising.
Yeah. Now my thing with the 2 blue wizards,
and if it works, it'll work great.
Yeah. The thing with the 2 blue wizards that I was getting at is, I do agree with Adelia here. Why not just name them something and then like make it known? Because I do think if you set up these 2 characters, the Dark Wizard and the Stranger, as these 2 mysterious things, and then they just end up being like, say, the 2 blue wizards, there's going to be a big letdown by the fans. It's going to be like, why'd you lead us on all this for this, right? The only reason why I said this,
especially people that aren't book nerds like me and French, and have just
Yeah.
watched the Hobbit movies and the Lord of the Rings trilogy, they're probably not going to know these blue wizards exist. There's like a vague mention of them in one of the Hobbit movies, I think, and that's
Yeah.
it.
Lord of the
So,
Rings doesn't even the movies don't even mention them.
yeah, they're not even mentioned in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So, if it's going to be the blue wizards, they should have just led with that instead of hidden it.
Right.
Which
Yeah,
is why I
they
think it
need
isn't.
to get it over with, like next episode kind of thing.
Right. If it ends
That's
up
the
being,
last
say,
chance for
Gandalf,
them to do it.
if it ends up being like an earlier version of Gandalf and Saruman, then like keep the mystery going, because like that would be a reveal eventually. Even though people are guessing it pretty easy, like it still would be a reveal. But I just, like you said, if they did do the blue, if they are supposed to be the two blue wizards, like the reveal is going to be a big letdown at the end. It's going to be like, what, really? You drug us on for this?
If it turns out to be the blue wizards, I honestly will be a bit disappointed, because why did you use so many of Gandalf's lines?
That's
Yeah.
true too. That's true too.
You know, especially at the end of the first season, the things about following your nose and stuff like that. Those are Gandalf lines. Don't just like suddenly, oh, well, those are just wizard things. No. Those were Gandalf things. The rest of the wizards didn't talk like that.
Yeah. I agree.
So yeah, it's either way. It's like, well, but hurry up and get to the point. That's my biggest thing about the wizards, is get to the point. Everything
I do
else,
think-
yeah, let's take our time and make this story worth storying.
Now,
But I want the wizards to hurry up and get to the point.
now, would you be upset if it was Gandalf, but that dude was somebody like just a throwaway character?
If
The
the stranger is
show-
Gandalf and the dark wizard is one of the blue wizards, I'm fine with that. Because the rune is in the east. That's where the dark wizard is. Like, if they want to do that, that's fine. But like, I also don't know why they aren't just naming that character.
Yeah,
Why
like
are we
giving
just
them a
calling
name.
him the dark wizard? Yeah.
Yeah. I will say too, I did love the fact, and you brought this up earlier, Adelia, the opening with Sauron and going back and kind of like showing us some things there, and him getting like brutally stabbed like 1,000 times.
Oh, that was brutal.
And turning into like basically just a puddle of blood was, I thought was actually really cool. It was intriguing, and it got me interested into the show this season faster than say like season one. So I think the opening kind of was like catchy enough. It's kind of like the Game of Thrones when you watch the first episode and the first scene is with some White Walkers, and you're like, even though they don't talk about the White Walkers that much anymore at all, period, they'll get mentioned, but you don't see scenes with them. But you're always going back and going like, hey man, you remember that shit that happened at the very beginning of the show? Like, when is that going to happen? Like, I'm intrigued. Like, I'm ready to get to this point and see all that stuff. So like, I do think that this season actually did set it up. I saw that and I was like, cool. And I was also interested because they actually do show some of the things. Like, they didn't show that one guy getting eaten by the warg. When he escapes from after, he leaves from getting like brutally beat by that guy a couple times. But like, they didn't show that part. You just hear him scream and you know what's happening. And they don't have to show everything, but I thought it was kind of cool for somebody like me to be able to see, like, they didn't pull punches on everything. Because that scene was pretty brutal. He's getting attacked and they're literally showing him getting just stabbed to freaking death, like just multiple times. And they didn't like really cut away from it very much. So I thought that was actually kind of cool to give.
I think
it brings more like evil into it. And Sauron's supposed to be like true evil. And I hope they just let that guy be evil. Like, and I think a lot of different things and IPs are trying to make their bad guys like gray. It's like, bro, no, sometimes some people just bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, let them be bad.
Yeah. I think that they're portraying Sauron kind of perfectly at the moment, because he's supposed to be the angelic figure when he's with Celebrimbor in the Anatar form. You're not supposed to suspect this guy at all. And once those rings are made, and this might lead into next season, but once those rings are made, I think all bets are off with that happening anymore.
Once he has the ring, he doesn't have to hide anymore.
Yeah.
From anyone. Not the orcs, not the humans, not the elves, not the dwarves, not anybody. Because he's
Now,
got that ring. And
me
that's
and-
going to be the goal of this season.
Me and Greggy Poo was talking, man. So when are we getting Bilbo?
We're not.
Bilbo, it's not happening in this.
Once he's
We,
strapped
we
up.
ain't getting Bilbo Baggins? What?
Not strapping
No,
up.
I doubt we will get a Baggins in this entire series.
Damn.
Ooh.
Basil's
I might
not
be
showing
out.
up either.
I might be out in the series then.
Basil's not
Right.
showing up to like trip a wizard at the wrong moment. Like,
All right. Anybody have any final thoughts?
That's definitely an
Then
end at the end of season 3.
Episode 3, yeah.
The big thing, grabbing the human people out of the trees up into the air, yeah, that was an end. That's I'm calling it.
Once if you learn
Yeah.
that Basil just trips the guy who chopped off the finger of Sauron's, like just trips him up. That's what it all.
he's the cause. He's the cause of the greatness. So Brandi, like, because she admitted like she really hasn't dove into Lord of the Rings and stuff like this, so this is kind of like newer to her. So what my man French is talking about when he says Ent is just a big tree guy.
It's a walking and talking tree.
Yeah, it's a walking, talking tree.
Groot.
Which does make sense, because it doesn't make sense to Troll would be killing the damn people that are supposed to be on their side and then just picks up the boy. It would make sense for it to be one of the trees.
No, it has to be an Ent, because you had that guy chopping on a tree right in that scene for no apparent reason at night. Like, yeah, it's an Ent. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We will be back soon with an episode 4 review. And until next time, we are out of here. Bye.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.